Hello students, and welcome to section 3.5, which is about adding and subtracting like fractions. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to add and subtract like fractions. First, we're going to talk about adding fractions. One thing to note, when we are talking about like fractions, that means they have a common denominator. So we are clear to add and subtract right away because the denominators match. So in this first example, we have 1/8 plus 5/8, which means when you add, you are going to add only the numerators, so 1 plus 5, and you're going to keep that denominator the same. So you've got 6/8. So 1 out of the 8 pieces plus 5 out of the 8 pieces gives you 6 out of the 8 pieces. The last thing you need to do is to reduce. Since 6 and 8 can both be divided by 2, your final answer for this first problem is 3/4. Go ahead and try this one on your own. When you add, you get 28 over 49. Both of those can be divided by 7 for a final answer of 4/7. Next, when we talk about adding rational numbers, we can also talk about adding mixed numbers. There are a couple of different ways that you can do this. The first option is to split it into its different pieces. So what I mean by that is you can take the two whole numbers and add those. So 4 plus 2, and that's going to give you an answer of 6. Then as a second part of the problem, you can take the fractions and add those and do 5/7 plus 1/7, which is going to give you 6/7. And then to find the final answer, you have 6 plus an additional 6/7, which is going to give you a final answer of 6 and 6/7. So that's the first way that you can do this. Personally, I find that method easier. However, there is another option, which is to turn it into improper fractions. So 7 times 4 is 28, plus 5 gives you 33 over 7. Then adding, for the second one, 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 gives you 15/7. Then you would go ahead and add those numerators, just like you would in normal addition. So we've got 48 over 7. And then you would have to re-simplify to a mixed number. So 7 can go into 48 6 times. 6 times 7 is 42, and to get from 42 up to 48, you need to add 6. So again, we get an answer of 6 and 6/7. So personally, I like splitting it up into whole numbers and fractions, but you also have the option to do an improper fraction. So in this next example, we have a negative 7 and 7/8 being added to 5 and 10/11. So again, I'm going to break it up and say negative 7 plus 5. Negative 7 plus 5 gives me negative 2. Then when I deal with the fraction piece, not only is this whole number negative, but the fraction portion is also negative. So this 7/11 in a negative number is negative 7/11 plus 10/11. If I do negative 7 plus 10, that's going to give me a positive 3/11. Then, when I put my number back together, I've got negative 2 and I've got a positive 3/11. So what that means is I need to go up 3/11 from negative 2. So that's going to get me to negative 1 and 8/11. So we went up to the next number, and then we went up 3 more spaces, which gets you to 3 out of 11. So your final answer here is negative 1 and 8/11. Go ahead and try this next one on your own. Breaking it up, you have negative 1 plus 5, which is 4, negative 5 plus 11, which is 6 over 12, which can be reduced to 1/2. So 4 plus 1/2 gives you 4 1/2. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about the difference. Same idea as adding, but now instead of adding, you are going to subtract. So in this first example, we have 9/10 minus 5/10. Subtracting those numerators gives me 4/10. And then I can divide both of those by 2, so my final answer is going to be 2/5. So subtract and then reduce when necessary. Go ahead and try this one on your own. We end up with -10 over 50, which is -1/5 after we reduce. In this next example, we have -2 and 11/12 minus 7 and 5/12. So with our mixed numbers again, we start by pulling out those whole numbers. So -2 and subtract 7. That's going to give me -9. Then again, with our fraction portion, because it is a negative number here, our fraction is also negative, so -11/12 minus, and then we've got 5/12. So I've got -11 minus 5, which is -16/12. That can be turned back into a mixed number. So we've got -1 and 4/12. 4 and 12 can both be divided by 4, so I've got -1 and 1/3. Putting my final answer back together then, I've got -9 and then -1 and 1/3 for a total of -10 and 1/3. So putting that all back together. Go ahead and try this one on your own. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Putting it together, you have 1 and 4/7. So for our last example here, again, we're going to start with the whole numbers. 9 minus 6, which is going to give me a +3. And then we're going to deal with our fractions, which is going to be 1/6 minus 4/6. That's going to give me -3/6, which can be reduced to -1/2. When we put these back together now, we have a +3 and a -1/2. So it's saying you have 3 and you're taking away a half, which is going to get you to 2 and 1/2. Go ahead and try this one on your own. So we have 2 minus 4, which is -2, and then 13 minus 9, which is 4 over 20, which is 1/5. Then we have -2, and we're adding 1/5 to it, so we end up with -1 and 4/5. If you have questions about this or anything else from the lesson, please feel free to reach out and let me know.